All right, guys, it is Wednesday night, another episode of Conversations with Cougars. Now we've got our technical difficulties out of the way, and I appreciate his patience. I appreciate his lifetime of friendship, my buddy, my running around buddy since way back in the day, teammate, classmate, number 17, Wood.
Wood, that's me.
How you doing tonight, bud? Thank you.
I'm good. How about you, Bernard?
I'm doing fine, and I appreciate you pinch hitting tonight.
Yeah, no problem. I don't mind being the player to be named later.
That's right. That's right. That's the only way I could get you on the show. Guys, as we do every Wednesday night, or almost every Wednesday night, I have awesome conversations with Cougars from all different years, generations, decades. And Shane was part of that 85 championship team that I was on, and so many of us were, class of 86. And Shane, I want to, before we jump back in the way back machine, catch up, folks. Tell folks a little bit about your family and what you're doing these days, and then we'll hop back in our time machine and have some good talks.
Well, I'm living in Dothan. Married, have two children, Ella, who is 16, and Peyton, who is 14. Ella is at Dothan High, which is formerly known as Northview, and Peyton is at Carver for the 9th grade academy. My wife, Misty, we live here in Dothan. Just kind of keeping up with the kids and watching them grow up too fast. I came back here when I got out of Auburn, worked with Mike Lewis that we all graduated with in 86. And we were at Auburn together as well. Been working with his family and since 92, and then with just him since 2004 as a construction estimator and project manager and whatever else has to be done. So
well,
that's just it.
That right there, for those of you who don't know Shane or didn't know Shane back in the day, what he just said really defined who he was as a person back in high school and as a teammate. Whatever needed to be done, he did it. Whatever was asked of him, he did it. And even when he wasn't asked, he still did it because he saw the bigger picture. And that's what I've always appreciated about our friendship and about him being really one of the just ideal teammates. And and I would have said that even when he wasn't here with us. But Shane, let's head back to our middle school days. I know that you and I we had the privilege playing for the Girard Rebels, but here's where I want to go with this. When did football get on your radar, and when did it become, I guess, cool to you to ultimately one day be a Northview Cougar?
Well, I started playing rec ball, Pee Wee, for a couple of years before, or I guess right before going to middle school. And then when we got to Girard, you guys were playing, and I was like, hey, I want to play for my school and keep this going. And while at Girard, 7th, 8th grade, I think we were in 8th grade, going to the Northview games, everybody wearing your Northview coat with your name on the back, watching all those players play. And then my stepbrother Wayne, he was a year ahead of me, so he was there at Northview for the 81 championship. Mm-hmm. And so we would always go to the games. He would tell me about all, he would talk about all the players, Pye Whaley, all the guys, Woo, that we got to play with. But, just going to the games and seeing the excitement and saying, hey, I want to be a part of that. So playing there with Coach Singletary and Coach Shakespeare, who helped. I played the secondary there. Yeah. And, with their help, and then going on to Northview. And I remember, the 9th grade season, practicing down there in the hole. What is the baseball and softball fields now with Coach Cleveland.
I gotta pause you. I gotta pause you right there. We're still in middle school. How
Okay.
important to you, how prized of a possession was that garnet and gold wood jacket with the Northview symbol on it to you in 8th grade? How important was that item?
Oh, it was a huge deal to everybody now. And then, especially if you had a significant other, you swapped the jacket. So you'd see somebody with the name that's not theirs walking around on it. So, but it was a big deal. I remember asking for it for Christmas, and, any t-shirts, we could get that said Northview, it was a big deal. And, we were excited. It was fun to go to the games. I guess we really couldn't wait to get over there. Of course, there was obviously some fear and trepidation about that, but
yeah,
it was a big deal. Northview, it was.
Hey, it could have been 90 degrees. We were wearing those jackets.
You're right. That was the cool thing. You had to have the jacket.
That's right. 8th grade. It was, it's, you don't want to rush your childhood, but when you're in 8th grade and you see what's ahead in the high school, even though you're the king of the school in 8th grade, and we had a great 8th grade year. I remember a lot of it. And you're right. Coach Shakespeare, Eugene Singletary, we had Ben Lyons, we had Mike Ferris came right after that. And we had so many, and I'm going to test your memory a little bit. So many of our Girard teammates ended up being our Northview teammates.
That's right.
Harry Stanley, Tim Bright.
Yeah, that's. I was thinking about a story, especially last week when you were talking, or I guess week before talking to Chris. Mm-hmm. I remember PE. We did the 4x relay, and somehow me and you and Robbie Arnold and Harry got pitted together. And you were the first leg, I was the second, and then Robbie took us on down, and Harry just blew it open. I mean, we certainly had something with that.
Well, now wait a minute. If you remember correctly, I was the bait. That's why I went first. I set the tone, pretty slow speed, not the slowest, but pretty close. Then you brought it up, and then Arnold with his speed, and then Harry just finished it off. But you're so right. But Shane, we got so many folks. Chris Holmes is with us. Tim Bright is with us. Damon Glasgow, Mom, Mark Saffold. Thank you guys, everybody who's rolling in here.
Sorry for being late too. That was on me more than Bernard. I'll take the heat for that. I'm not as tech savvy as he is. So. But hey, it's great to look who those guys.
Hold the show. Guess who just joined us? I'm gonna give you one hint. She's our memory, the highest rated show in the history of this program. Shirley C is in the house. Hey, Miss C.
Shirley C. I love she kind of helped raise me in some instances. I know at school, and then being at church, you had the lady from church or the church lady at school with you. So you had to walk the line a little straighter with her there too. But yeah, I love her.
Right. And another one of our buddies, Carlisle Morris, is here. Hey, Carlisle, good to see you, Carlisle. Buddy. All right, Shane, let's transition from 8th to 9th grade. And I bet you remember this conversation. Me and you and Arnold sitting in the bleachers with Rick Bittner, Hunter. Rick Cazenave is with us. Hey, Rick Cazenave. We're sitting in the bleachers. It's the first week of school, and I'm telling you guys, I'm not playing football in 9th grade. I'm going to go, baseball is where I'm going. I'll come out in 10th grade. And then I remember Coach Parrish coming over. We'll see you guys in about 30 minutes. And that ended that.
Yeah, we were all there.
That's right, from day one. But what do you remember about those first weeks, those first months or semester, about transitioning from Girard, where we're kings of the school, to now we're the lowest on the rung?
I remember hanging out way down in the corner, away from all the lockers, as far as I could get, with friends, just trying to stay on the fringe and stay out of the fray, not let anybody see you or even know you're there. Hanging out with them until it was time to go to class. Just the intimidation of the larger school. And then, of course, with my older stepbrother telling me all the terrible things. Oh, don't do this. Don't let anybody tell you to do this. So, and watching some others that with things going on. But it was tough. It was different getting used to it.
It was.
But it was a lot of fun.
We came in the fall of '82. our school is the defending then 4A state champions. Our
Yeah.
8th grade year, you're so right. Us going to those games in 8th grade, so cool, so awesome. That's our program, that's our school. But those guys on the field, while they were several years older than us, they were awesome. They were
Yeah.
larger than life to me. The Brent Gilberts, the Larry Roberts, you go on. What was your perspective sitting in the stands watching those future teammates of ours?
I was just in awe, and I guess, I thought, man, I want to play for Northview, but I thought, how can I ever play for Northview? I hoped I could be there and even contribute and be a part of the team, because I'm looking at these huge guys, and I'm in 8th grade. And of course, we hadn't been in the weight room at all there. So, I mean, it was, that was intimidating as well. And I remember, starting practices in 9th grade and seeing them up there on the field, all those names that you knew, and just, there were local heroes to us, and there they are. And then moving up to 10th grade, being on the field was a bigger deal. But
Which you're right.
I remember, didn't the Dothan week, I was thinking they came and stood around the hill over the practice field and started chanting. I mean, I remember that, just thinking, wow, now that's cool.
Oh, it was incredibly cool with the likes of Charles Bronson and so many others. Charles just joined us. Thank you, bud. I tell you, when we're down in that pit with Coach Tribb and Coach Cleveland and just dying, not only physically, because it was so awful down there because no air flowed through there, but those guys up on the hill, to me, were the collegians. I mean, they were just so much better. They were awesome. And you just wanted to get up there, but you had to take care of what was going on down where we were. And we had over 70 ninth graders who came out for football that year. Now, part of that's a product of the state championship the year before. Part of that's a product of just who the coaches were. And to me, it was the atmosphere and school spirit that was going on. Did you know that you wanted to play football in 9th grade? Did you know that was whatever way you could to get on the field and be part of all that?
I did. I wanted to tough it out, and I wanted to be a part of it, because of the tradition. And, I don't know if it was 9th or 10th grade. I think it was 9th grade, but Coach Parrish showed us a video that was made of the 81 team, and it had all the highlights of the game, and then it had the highlights after the game. And it was set to the music of I think the Greatest American Hero or something. But I saw those guys running on that field, holding that flag. And I said, I want to do that. I want us to get there and do that. I mean, that inspired me so much. And another thing, I mean, the practices were so tough, but I remember, Chris Lee, Rufus, as we call him, he came over. That was the first year he was with us. And I didn't know him at first. And then I finally got to know him. And then when I found out he was practicing and he couldn't even play, I was like, man, that guy really wants to play football. Yeah. So, that kind of stuff just said, hey, I have the chance. I can play. So it just inspired me more to work hard and, buy into what the coaches were telling us and just try to do my best.
It was during that 9th grade year that obviously we set the foundation for 4 years later. 4 years later, you and Chris got to run around the field with me in Vegas with that flag, and you guys look at the pictures. Look at the pictures I posted of Shane for the promo today, and you'll see that very picture. Yep. But as hardworking and as tough as those 9th grade practices and that preseason were, one of my most vivid memories is how much fun it was. And I don't mean the hard work. That came part of it. Laughter has always been a cornerstone of our group's friendship. And I think it's so vitally important that when you're going through the toughest of times or the best of times, if you find that commonality of humor, and Rob Arnold was one of the funniest dudes.
His laugh could make me laugh.
Hunter Bittner, you, me, Chris Lee, and I could go on and on. We worked very hard, but we had a lot of fun. And we did. One of the things that was not fun was running the hill. And I want you to talk a little bit about that in ninth grade. How awful was that?
It was like the worst thing I could imagine at my, in ninth grade or at my age. It was just, you just felt like you're going to fall down and die any minute. I mean, it was just hard, but you just kept wanting to push yourself, and the coaches were pushing you too. You just had to, mentally, you just had to make yourself tough enough just to keep going.
Well, let's talk about playing defensive back in ninth grade. I know you played a little receiver. I know you played a little defensive back. How did you settle on one of your positions, and what was that like for you at the time?
Well, I played secondary ninth grade, and then when we moved to 10th grade, I thought I was like, I want to try receiver, and I played receiver that year. I'll never forget those drills Coach Parrish had us doing, throwing the bricks. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
The bricks, and we threw eggs, to focus on your eye, focusing on what you're catching. But it was all in a job. I was still trying to find my place and where I actually felt comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
For my size, I wasn't one of the big guys. I had speed, but I didn't have the size. So I was just trying to find where I fit best.
Well, in ninth grade, you're having to guard the likes of Lawrence.
Yeah.
You're having to guard the likes of Harry Stanley, Catfish. I mean, some just awesome athletes, Chris Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
Hogan. I mean, you got tested every single day in practice. Then 10th grade, you're playing receiver. You go up against the likes of Butch Henderson.
Yeah.
Bruce Johnson. Should I go on and on?
No, that's enough right there.
You got some real education.
I think we said Butch Henderson. I think I felt the pain through my jaw again from one of those.
I also distinctly remember overthrowing you and having you unfortunately run. You remember this?
I do.
All right, finish it.
You mean when I cut my lip?
Yep.
Yeah. And that was in warm-ups. We were just doing drills, and you overthrew it, and I ran. I was running to try to get the ball, and somehow we mixed in with the DBs, and I forget who I ran into, but I ended up on the ground, and he was still standing there, and it ended up cutting my lip, or cutting my gum, actually, and I had to leave practice to go get stitches. Yeah, I do remember that.
Do I still owe you an apology? Sorry.
No, you don't. You don't. That's part of it.
Well, that ninth grade year was a transition for anybody coming into high school after middle school or junior high. And I want to go off the field for just a few minutes. Talk about the academic side and the social side. It's a gigantic school. There's so many places to get lost or to hide or to just hang out. Who were some of your teachers back then? Where did you like to hang out? I mean, I know the answers to these things, but share a little bit about some of your memories.
Well, as the year went along, we found our way to the lockers. We felt some comfort after we'd been there. I remember, let's see, what year would we have? No, Miss Spivey, not yet. I'm trying to think of what all we took in ninth grade. I do remember Glenn Hughes in science. And I actually remember meeting Jay Reed in there the first time because he was new to the school. And so we kind of met up in there. And then what we take Alabama history. And then also I took drafting for the first time.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is that where you got your start into what ultimately became your profession?
It really is. That's where I remember. Well, it actually goes further back than that. It goes back to 8th grade when we had, when we did the rotation where we had shop, we had home ec, we all did it.
Yeah.
And I remember doing some mechanical drawing in there with Mr. Peacock, actually. And
I got some great Mr. Peacock stories.
Oh, yeah. And so that was the first place I did that. And then when we got to Northview and it was a course you could take, I was like, oh yeah, this is something I'm definitely interested in. So that's where I started doing that. And I actually took 3 years of it while we were there at Northview. I wound up in biology with a bunch of 10th graders my 12th grade year because of it. But I had a great time doing that. I think Mr. Saliba taught it the first year and then Mr. Palmer later. So many teachers, and not all in the ninth grade stand out. You know, Miss Spivey, Miss Devane. I think I had her for algebra, and Miss Glanton. You know, I'm stretching my memory here.
That's
but
okay. Well, why are you thinking? I want to talk about why it's so different being a ninth grader compared to the upper class, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Now, my experience was as ninth graders, we got recognized by the upper school football players just because we saw each other, locker room and on the fields.
Right.
So that in and of itself was a good feeling. When you had certain guys, like when I had Dickie Lillard, one of the quarterbacks who was the state championship quarterback. You know, when they recognize you in the halls, that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
What did it mean to you Chris Holmes still says he still has the clock from Mr. Peacock's class. Chris, you got to send us a picture of that clock. That's awesome.
I think I may have it packed away too. I rememred that. I do have
cool.
made this little thing in plexiglass too. I ran across it a while back.
I still have that smell of the plexiglass after you've sanded it.
Oh,
I
yeah,
can recognize that smell.
That's
Anyway,
right.
let's get back to let's talk about being an athlete in a 6A school. What was that like for you?
It was huge. I mean, just being recognized with the football players, you know, and there was nothing like, you know, in ninth grade, we had our games on a different night, but we still got to wear those jerseys around in the hallways. And that was always a huge deal. I mean, you know, nothing made you prouder than to walk around with your jersey on game day. And I remember that. And just, you know, the way that, like you said, the older players would recognize us. It was just, I mean, it was a great experience.
You know, to me, it also gave us a sense of belonging.
Right.
Later on, you joined clubs. Later on, you were part of different societies or organizations, but it immediately gave us a place to call ours. We're part of the football team. And from a social standpoint, maybe a lot of guys, that's not really on the guys' mindset for the most part. You're so busy. That just isn't really part of maybe the experience that you worry about organizations to belong to, but it automatically puts you there. Yeah. And you're recognized not only by the upper class football players, but other athletes, baseball players or basketball players from our grade. Also, we knew each other either from rec league or growing up. So to me, it automatically gave us a footing, if you will, in the school.
Yeah. And we'd already kind of been practicing together before school started too. So we had those guys, we'd made built those relationships and made those acquaintances before we even got there. So that helped too.
How much was the rectangle pizza fries and lemonade back in the day?
$1.50, I think. Is that right?
$1.25.
$1.25. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the other bonus where I remember working in the lunchroom senior year too. That was a good gig too.
I was getting ready to say you could eat as much as you could handle after everybody had gone through. Well, let's talk about that transition socially from 9th to 10th grade, going to dances and doing just all the goofy stuff that you do. You were a year older than most of us in our grade, so we loved the fact that you were driving that year. I cannot tell you how much gas we paid Shane to drive us around.
Yeah, that's a story in itself, but that was looking back. Yeah. But it was cool to be the person that could do that. And, you know, we had a good time doing it. It helped all of us feel older. And
it also helped that all of our parents trusted Shane.
Yeah, that's huge. I just don't know that I would let my kids go do that now. I would have to know that kid really well.
Well, it's a whole different world. It was a simpler time, you know.
That's
most
true.
of us would like to think back then. Guys, I'm talking with Shane Wood, one of my longtime buddies and classmates and teammate from our class of '86. He was on the '85 state championship team with us. And we're just running through some goofy old times, but we're going to get back onto the field. Let's talk about 10th grade. Our JV season was outstanding. We had a good team that year. what do you remember about playing? I
Yeah.
don't know if you have any memories of actual games or anything from that time period, but what do you remember about 10th grade?
Honestly, I don't remember a lot about those games. Just trying to get on the field and as secondary, don't let them behind you. Don't get burned. And just try to do everything the coaches tell you to do. Did I always do that? No, but and it was fun. I was just, sometimes I was like, oh, just don't screw up. Just don't screw up.
Mm-hmm.
But
what position were you playing at that point?
I was cornerback and safety mostly. And again, that's because of my size and lack of size. Yeah. And then I did have some speed. That was the best fit. So.
And we had also in our class was Mark Reeves, who was in the defensive backfield. Who else was roaming back there with you? Our 10th grade, our JV.
Well, actually, 10th grade was when I was a receiver. I take that back. Yeah, that was 9th or 11th grade when I moved over there. But yeah, I was a receiver. I was just trying to run the right patterns and hope the quarterback throw me the ball,
or not overthrow you and get you hurt. Yeah.
But and then I catch it when you did.
10th grade was really that big learning curve. We were learning the offense. We were transitioning to try up on the big field. And that's when you really figure out where you're going to be your 11th and 12th grade years. And by then, 11th grade, you transition back to defensive backfield. Who's your coach and why was he so important?
Well, it was Coach Griffin, obviously. And he just, and the funny thing is, going back to the story you were telling earlier about the overthrow in practice, when I hit the other guy, I think I landed either right at Coach Griffin's feet or close by, and he just gave me a look and sent me back to the receivers. But it was an adjustment moving over there, and everybody, I had Bruce helped me a lot. Holly or Butch would, give pointers, and I was just, again, trying to learn the position, learn to do things and watch those older guys and just learn as much as I could. That's just learning the position is mainly what I remember. Now, 10th grade, it was also about surviving practice because I remember being a receiver a lot of times. Mm-hmm. We would get teamed up to run the ball for the defense. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you got, Brett Heisler, Bam Bam, or Bruce Bolden, Dunseth all over there that you're just like, oh God, you're counting the line to see, let me get somebody that doesn't kill me. So some of it was just let me survive, but
that's part of the maturation of a high school football player.
It is.
And speaking of a guy who matured beautifully and just was in our class and just one of the A+ contributors, Willie Banks is with us tonight. Hey, Willie. Good to see you, bud.
Yeah. Hey, Willie.
And Ted Sullivan. Thank you, Ted, for chiming in and watching with us. Guys, of course, I've got Shane Wood, one of my buddies, running around and classmate from back in the day. But Shane, you're learning the defensive backfield position from one of the best coaches that has been around in Dothan and the Wiregrass. And you have incredible talent on and off the field who are a year or 2 years older. And the sheer number of those defensive backs who played for Coach Griffin all those years, who went on to college and a few even played professionally, the numbers are staggering. And I know we didn't appreciate it back then, but when you really think about it and look at the numbers, incredible who was there. And it was such an experience to learn. Every day, I'm sure you learn something.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Coach Griff was just, and I see him often here in town, and we just hug, and he's like another father figure to me, just from that coaching background. Just it's like Coach Parrish. Mm-hmm. I mean, he just helps you through a time of your life when everything is, as goes crazy, and then and learning, on the field, the things that were going on. He was just, he was great to be around. Now, did I always make him happy? Absolutely not.
Nope.
But he wasn't too tough on me when I didn't. He had a way of just kind of, acting so pained by it, but it wasn't like he screamed and yelled and took you too hard to task. But he was just, and he was just he's a good guy. He's
I never had the privilege or honor playing for Coach Griffin or anybody on defense, of course. But to me, whenever a defensive back did something that he didn't like, he took it personally. It's as if you stepped or kicked his dog, and you had to make amends. You knew what was the right thing to do. You just may not have been able physically to do what he needed you to do. But Shane, our 11th grade year, we had an outstanding team. I think we either went undefeated or just lost one game. And that really set the tone for the next year. Our varsity year, our junior year, was not a good year. They were 4-6. May have been the first losing season, missed out on the playoffs. But we had a strong junior, our class going in. What do you remember, if anything, about that summer leading up to our senior year? I have a lot of vivid memories about that time period. But
starting out that summer, I remember us going to football camp for one. Me and you and Lawrence and Rufus going to Alabama to the raid.
Hold on. The statute of limitations has passed, and I'm going to ask you. You're either going to tell it or I'm going to ask it and tell it. So I want to hear it.
I'm not telling all the business on Rufus now. I do know. I remember going up there distinctly. Chris drove, and I think I was in the back seat. And Chris was crazy with his driving. And at one point, he made a pass that he shouldn't have made. And we were in the other lane a little longer than we probably needed to be. And I remember Lawrence didn't say much, but he spoke up at that point and kind of encouraged Chris to get back in the other lane. Of course, Chris,
you are so diplomatic. You're being so
he
kind.
He tried to stay there a little longer to test your will, but he did finally get it over, thank goodness.
Let's put it this way, and I'll put this to rest. Lawrence has one of the nicest demeanors of any person you've ever been around, regardless of their station in life. At that moment, Lawrence's demeanor changed a little bit, and it got everybody's attention.
And I was glad he spoke up because, Chris, but that's a reaction he was usually looking for, to see how far he could push you.
And I also distinctly remember you two didn't stay very long in your dorm room during that trip.
Yeah, something like that. Chris needed a partner. I just kind of went as a chaperone. I'll put it at that.
All right,
I also remember at that camp, we split up and we played, I think, flag football. And I remember getting to play with Bo Peep, who played at Central when we played those games.
Yeah, and as fortune had it, he got hurt in the Dothan High game our senior year, the first round of the playoff. So he was not available when we beat them 10-0 in the second round, and that was fortuitous for us, that's for sure, because he went on to Auburn, a great Auburn career, and then he went on to play in the pros for a bit.
Yeah,
he sure did. Well, let's move past the summer camp, the Ray Perkins summer camp, and getting into the season. I can remember lots of our senior meetings, just seniors getting ready for the season and having a lot of expectations prior to that kickoff on that Labor Day game against Robert E. Lee.
Yeah, I remember, the delay from Friday, and then, the game with Lee. It was a tough game. They were tough. I remember that game. They did a quick kick one time. One of their plays, they did a quick kick, and I was back at free safety. And I saw it go over my head, and I was like, well, I'm going to run back there. And when I got there, my first thought was turn around and look first, because if there's a guy right behind him, I don't want to get cleared. Killed. So I look back, I picked the ball up, and my first and only punt return. And I think the most yardage I got was from the penalty where they did clobber me. And I
Yeah.
remember going over and Coach Griffin said, "You got blocking right over there." He gave me that pained look. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I just picked it up and ran, Coach."
If you remember, it was incredibly hot, incredibly humid. A lot of
Oh,
rain
yeah.
had just occurred. I think our kickoff was either 11:30 or 1:30 that day.
Yeah, it was middle of the day.
But they had Larry Ware, who was a phenomenal player, went on to a big career at Georgia. He was Mr. Football the next year in '86 in Alabama. But of course, unfortunately, what we really stands out is we lost that game, but we also lost Lawrence in the first series. And he broke his arm in an unfortunate play, and he was gone for the next 4 weeks. What do you remember about the tone, the mood of the team when Lawrence got hurt and subsequent?
Well, I mean, I remember, people feeling down. But then I was also focused, on my side of the ball. What do I need to keep doing?
Mhm.
After that particular game, I just remember Coach Perrin bringing us together and say, "Hey, stay focused. If we continue to work hard, things will go our way. You guys are." And I remember, we played so many games in a short period right there that we just kept going and fighting through and believing in what the coaches told us. We just kept going.
Well, I was going to say it was the coach's mentality. It was the coach's ability to get us to trust in them is really what got us through there. Because if you remember, we played 3 games in 10 days.
Yeah.
We lost to Lee 14-8. We crushed Kendrick 28-7 the next week. Then we lost. It seemed like Sidney Lanier beat us every year. Close games. We lost to them 14-9. Then we lost to Chalk-Hatchie 24-17. Then we came to homecoming, and Lawrence comes back, and I think they were ranked in the top 10 in Georgia.
Right.
We smoked them. We beat them 23-0, and that's what turned the season. Lawrence coming back, and I have some distinct memories about that game and that time period. Do you recall any either on or off the field from that time period?
I remember the things I remember that we played so well. The defense played well.
Mhm.
And I think it was towards the end of the game. I think Cassie had an interception.
Mhm.
I think it was Cassie, and ran it in.
Yeah.
And I remember that because I was the free safety, so I was so far back. And I saw that he made it in, and so I'm in the middle of the field, and I try to jump up and do, I guess it's a pirouette, a complete spin. Well, I made it about halfway around, and then I tripped and fell right there in the middle of the field. And I thought, well, they're all watching Cassie anyway. But then I thought, oh, I hope that won't be on film.
And it was.
And Monday, Coach Ragsdale had to point out, hey, and everybody check this out. And then they see me just falling down.
Yeah, Cassie had a 10-yard interception to the house with about 10 minutes to go. And earlier in that half, I hit Hogan with a long pass that really just kind of put the game over the edge. But it really was the turning point. Now, what do you remember after that game that was now funny but embarrassing after the game?
For me?
No, for me.
You may have to remind me because.
What car did I take for homecoming?
Oh, the big white boat?
No, that was a different year. This was the DeLorean.
Oh, yes, I do remember that. And it wouldn't crank.
The battery died on us, and you and Arnold had to come bail me out with CC.
I do remember that now. I do remember you taking the DeLorean, and then
All right, let's move on. We won 10 out of the next 11 games, and it ultimately became a blessing that we lost to Dothan High. While we never want to lose to Dothan, Scotty Dees kicks the field goal in overtime. But Shane, we had so many overtime games. We had 5 overtime games leading up to the state championship. And what was your observations? What was your mentality when every one of those games were close games? There seemed to be a bend but don't break approach, whether it was on offense or defense. What do you remember about that time period?
I just remember, hey, I always felt like we were in the game. I mean, we could always find a way especially after the first overtimes. It just seems like we would find a way to make it happen. Somebody would come up with a play on defense or on offense, or, of course, the league game being unbelievable as it was. It just, I just felt that, the confidence still, I guess, that the coaches had instilled in us, and seeing the way the other games had gone, that we could overcome whatever it seemed like was put before us.
It was a very business approach for us. I could not imagine being one of our parents in the stands at these games.
Couldn't either. I would have. I couldn't either. It's tough now when I go watch my kids, do something. I'm such a nervous wreck for them. I just can't imagine, and then as big as it was then, I mean, the whole community, or that side of town's community, because, but, it was a big deal. It was just huge. And
it was a big deal.
They're watching those games.
And, as the season got a little deeper and we got a little further into the playoffs, not only was our momentum and confidence building as a team, but it seemed like more and more of the community was getting on board with our team. And many have called the team the Cardiac Cougars just because of all those overtimes. But during that time period, there was probably as much school spirit as maybe at any point in time in the school. Now, not to take away from the 81 team, which I think is the greatest team that Northview ever had. They were 13-1. They smoked everybody. Yeah. Those games, that defense was so strong. And Dickey did such a wonderful job of filling in for David Alford, just kept on going. But our games, you got your money's worth. And
And that's what I was going to say too. Our student section was so incredible. I mean, there were so many people there, and everybody was so excited, and you could sense that. I mean, like every play or every bounce of the ball, they were just watching it. It was so awesome, just an awesome time looking back. I mean, it was so fun to be on that field, and then the things that were going on, and then, the people in the stands, everybody was into the game, and it was just great.
I don't see any official records, but obviously we had the big comeback win in the third round at Robert E. Lee. Then the next week we host Fairhope at home in a mud bowl type game. Thankfully, Lawrence picked up the fumble that I created and ended up scoring. And Clark kicks the field goal in overtime. And I dare say, outside of a Northview Dothan game, that may have been one of the biggest crowds in school or Rip Hughes history, because that was the game that if we win, we go on to the state finals.
Right.
And I just remember at the end when Clark's field goal goes through, I remember standing near you for that kick. And I don't know why. I don't specifically remember why, but I just remember a sense of relief.
Yeah.
Just, man, we really are about to do this.
It was hard to believe, but it was, like I said, it was just so exciting to know that. And of course, we knew what it meant. We knew where we were going if we won that game. Didn't know who we'd play yet, but we knew we would go to Legion Field, and that was the goal. That was one of the goals when we first started the season.
Let's talk about away from school during this time period. Church has been a central importance of your life. And as long as I've known you, that's also been one of the aspects of your daily life. What was it like at church? What were you hearing in those times when you're away from school, but in a different community for you?
Yeah.
What was going on at that point?
Well, there was a lot of excitement. Of course, Bobby Estes, that was a junior that played. Yeah. His father was our pastor. So, Bobby and I were both there. Carlisle was at he was at the church then. And, we would talk about it. There were obviously our youth group, our youth pastor was, he had played at Dothan High. So he was, and he was involved with the Northview team as well because he knew Coach Parrish, and talking with him, and then you have the other people you go to church with that go to Dothan High. There's some of that back and forth too. So there was lots of excitement in church as well.
It was just everywhere you went. You could be at the mall. You could have been getting gas. Somebody's going to recognize you if you got on some Northview something, or maybe they recognize your face. But speaking of Bobby Estes, Aristotle always gets all the recognition for his long run back that turned the state championship game. But it was Bobby who blew up that option play and created that fumble.
He made that play perfect, got that hand out there. And the Sunday morning after the game, I remember his dad called us both up on the platform, and he talked about that play specifically. Of course, he was proud of Bobby because Bobby did such a great job, and I can just remember seeing Bobby running down that field with his arms raised, chasing Aristotle.
Yeah. But Shane, if you remember, Huffman got the ball, they drove down, scored. We punted back to them. They were driving again. Then Bobby blew up the play. Aristotle takes it back, and then we score a whole bunch of times after that. But that truly, to me, was the turning point of that game, and arguably one of the most important plays in our school's program history.
Yeah. Well, and that helped turn the tone. But then also, I think Mike Henry, he had 2 interceptions in the state game too. The defense really stepped up in the game and kept putting the ball in y'all's hands, and y'all just, made a show of it.
Well, we weren't used to being up by so much at halftime. I think 24-7 or something like that. We scored one more time in the second half. They scored late, but it was just a different game for us completely. But by that point, I just remember being in the middle of the third quarter. It was important for Coach Parrish to start playing everybody. So everybody would be able to fast forward through the rest of their life to say that they played in a state championship game. I want to take you to when the clock is winding down. I want you to take us. How is it that you, Manny, and Chris ended up running around the field with that flag?
Well, and part of that, when Coach Parrish was doing that, I remember after we scored that last touchdown, and I was on the kickoff team, and I ran out there, and I was like, I was sitting there having the thought, this may be the last time I'm on the football field, because, I didn't really think I would go play college ball. And I'm like, this is going to be my last, maybe one of my last plays out here. And then Coach called me off, put somebody in, which at the time I was like, but I was like, hey, I wanted everybody to play too. I wanted everybody to feel a part of that. And with Chris, I remember this distinctly. Every week, we would be standing there right outside the locker room when they played the national anthem and the alma mater, and we'd always just be standing there with each other. And we, especially our senior year, we just kind of were relishing the moment. Mm-hmm. And then after, when the time was winding down, I didn't immediately go for the flag at first. There were some other guys who ran around with it too. But when I saw it, and Rufus and I think we made eye contact, and we both beeline and got the flag, and I just looked at him and Manny, and we just took off running. And it was, kids being kids, because it was, and I was thinking, man, this is what I wanted to do, and it's happening. It was just a cool experience.
It was, and it became one of the more recognizable post-game photos. I've been looking at that photo ever since then, and it immediately puts a smile on my face because it takes you back to a certain time in your life. It really does. And Shane, we've got just a couple more minutes. I appreciate your time and running through a little bit of our history, guys. Of course, I'm with Shane Wood, the class of '86. He was on that state championship team with me and so many others. And playing defensive back in that season, you played against some dadgum good wide receivers and halfbacks, many of whom went on to play in college, many of whom also then played a little bit professionally. Do you have any, this is kind of putting you on the spot a little bit. Do you remember playing against certain players or having recognizable, remember some of them?
I have some of them, because I guess I didn't go off and play college ball.
Mhm.
I didn't as much. Something that was neat for me. I went off to Auburn. I didn't play, organized football, but I did play football up there, flag football, and ended up hooking up with some of the guys from Dothan and got to play with Charles Bronson and Dickie Lillard on that team, which was a huge treat for me. Because again, there were guys like, hey, this is Charles Bronson, this is Dickie Lillard, they played at Northview too. So that was a big deal for me. But, I would keep up with some, or I'd hear a name and say, hey, I think I remember that name. But, I was more focused on college and trying to adjust again to a new environment, at Auburn. So.
Shane, let's conclude with this. I want to talk to you. I want you to talk to us. I love to learn the journey. We've talked about the journey, but playing team sports, there's so many life lessons that come from that. The successes, the failures, the frustrations, the jubilations. And you've had your children now go through team sports, and they're playing team sports right now. And there's so many things that still, regardless of the sport, they correlate. What did you learn playing junior high, middle school, and high school sports that maybe you've been able to incorporate in your life, or that you've shared with your children or others over your adulthood?
Wow. The biggest thing, I know the mental toughness that you develop when you're out there in August and you think, if I don't get something to drink, I'm going to fall out. But you keep pushing yourself, keep going, and you make it to the end of that practice. And then you make it to the end of the next practice. You get in tough games like that. It's just, there's so many things that teach you or taught me. Just keep pushing, keep working hard. You'll have success. You won't always have success, but if you don't keep working hard and keep at it, you surely won't. That was truly a life lesson for, and finding other people you can depend on to know that, okay, well, if I'm not doing my part, or I slack on my end, there's other people here who are going to help, that we're a group and we're fighting this fight together. It's good to have a group around you like that. And, and to be able to handle the disappointment. Like, you don't always win. Things don't always go the way you hope. You just got to keep pushing. And, I didn't realize it then, but those things, truly, those lessons learned and experienced have helped carry you through life, and things you'll face. It's just invaluable to me. It made me, a tougher man, a different man. I wouldn't trade any of it. My wife, she picks on me sometimes about what a great high school experience I had. Everybody doesn't. She said, everybody doesn't have the greatest high school experience like you had. And I said, I realize that. And I was very blessed and fortunate to have that, and for the people that were in my life and are still in my life from that time. So, all those players that, I sometimes miss this each week, but I love going back and watching. I just, it just does my heart good. I love all those guys, all you guys. I'm just so blessed and thankful to have been a part of it.
This is why I've been wanting for you to come on the show for many months now. This has been an awesome conversation for me. I hope you guys out there have enjoyed it. Shane, I want to thank you for pinch hitting tonight, being that team he's been, and I have so thoroughly enjoyed our conversation tonight. So thank you.
So have I. And I appreciate you doing this, Bernard. It's great to hear from all these guys and to have all this documented. It's good to relive those times and get to see people and catch up that I haven't seen in a while. I appreciate you doing it.
Absolutely. And I've got so many more folks that are coming in the upcoming weeks. So keep coming back Wednesdays at 7:00 Central. with Conversations with Cougars. You guys continue to be safe, do the right things for you and your family, and we will catch you next Wednesday. Y'all have a good night, good week.